Well, the first thing they should do is what I said in just now is accept that nicotine is going to be around. You're not going to get rid of it. It's as simple as that. Just like alcohol has been around for thousands of years. They don't think we're good. They say we'd like to stop harmful drinking. We don't want you drinking yourself into an early grave. But they don't go around saying we need to crush alcohol and get rid of it, because they know it's not possible. And they have to firstly accept that nicotine will be used by people. It's not going away ever, and literally ever. Then once they establish that, then obviously the next path is how can we minimize the harms from nicotine use? And that's what most governments are not doing at all. They're having this big, screaming with their arms in the air about, oh my God, people are using nicotine. People use caffeine. It might surprise many people to know that there was a 300-year battle for acceptance of people to use caffeine, to drink coffee. So these things have always happened. We've always had innovations come in, and you have people terrified of them and come up with all these wild excuses as to why we've got to eradicate this product. But at the end of the day, humans will use it. And it starts with that basic acceptance of that premise, because you can't craft decent policy if you're not even understanding what's facing you. In the UK at the moment, there's quite a lot of worrying about youth vaping, and the British government is coming out with some laws that are going to be highly counterproductive, and all of it is crafted around the idea that we need to stop youth from vaping. But in the UK, twice as many youths are regularly drinking alcohol. But there's no furore about that. It's kind of just accepted. Well, that's what kids do. Well, this is the same. This is what kids do. What you said, Bryan, monkey see, monkey do. They see adults using it. They aspire to be adults, and they want to copy it. Sometimes it's a fad. Sometimes they'll get over it. Other times they'll go on to regular use. But you have to understand that these things are going to happen with kids, and you can't just throw all these products out because children are using them. You have to come up with some sort of sensible policies that does try and stop youth from using these products, but without taking away from the adult population, especially when it comes to something like vaping and nicotine pouches and low risk alternatives to smoking, because you don't want to put such restrictions on them which stops kids using them, but then also stops the probably 10 times more adults from using them, especially if they're currently smoking. So I think it stems from that acceptance. Politicians have to accept you're not going to get rid of nicotine use. Nicotine is not comparable to combustible tobacco. I think there's a conflation there as well. They think nicotine causes all the harm, but do reading up about it. Like Kurt said, if they speak to industry or speak to consumers, and then we can advise them of that. So you do realize that nicotine isn't the harmful product in combustible tobacco. And so if they had an understanding of that, if they understood nicotine's not going away, if they understood the problem with smoking is not the nicotine, then perhaps we might see some more sensible policies coming from certain countries.
Bryan, I just want to add to that, is that South Africa is no stranger to this principle of harm reduction. In the early 2000s, actually the late 1990s, we had an enormous issue around HIV and AIDS. And we started off the conversation around HIV and AIDS in those years about completely denying it, that it doesn't exist. And then we went on to treatments like African potatoes, beetroots, and garlic as a treatment. And eventually, when the world looked at South Africa and said, "Oh, you got to be kidding, you're making the biggest mistakes." At the same time, the premature deaths were estimated over 300,000. We lost, I don't know how many tens of thousands of babies because we did not act according to what the evidence and science is saying. Eventually, we turned the corner and we put in a program where it looked at things like providing education, providing ARVs, and even providing free condoms, not only to the adults, but kids in school, because we kind of realized that it's not going to stop. People are just not going to stop. So what measures do we put in place to limit or to reduce the harms? And things like education, absolutely vital, particularly in our schools environment. Issuing out free condoms was a major step. And we even went as far as, and I've got a video clip of President Cyril Ramaphosa when he was a deputy president, holding up the new variations of condoms in Parliament that came with flavors and colors and so forth. And it's quite ironic that we accepted those kind of principles of harm reduction and consumer-centric solutions in those days. And now we just kind of, when it comes to tobacco, it's quit or die. And if you continue, then expect to pay more, and incredible restrictions where you can only use these products right at the end of the driveway or in the field somewhere, and that's it. We do not look at these problems with any level of pragmatism.